Okay, starting from back around the middle of April, Germany banned Monsanto GM maize, which is MON 810. It's the one I was talking about back in February. Basically, the decision was announced by German Agriculture Minister Ilse Aigner. They said the decision was purely scientific, it wasn't based on political reasons. And it was specifically against that type of maize. It's not a fundamental decision against all GM crops, it's specific to that one. She said that there was a justifiable reason to believe that MON 810 presented a danger to the environment. There's been lots of countries defying what you can only call pressure from the European Union, because the European Union has pretty much cleared this crop from being used. They say it's fine, go ahead, we want it used, it's great. But countries like Hungary and Austria have been saying not in our patch, sorry, and Germany has just added on to that list of countries that won't be growing any of MON 810. Monsanto have been looking at legal routes to try and block the decision by Germany. They're not ruling out any injunctions to stop the ban, of course. In the same week, they had another setback from the Union of Concerned Scientists, the USC. They released a report called Failure to Yield. They looked at the 13 years of commercialization of GM crops, and they have come to the conclusion that they have failed to deliver on industry promises to significantly increase yield. They want public money to get pulled from Monsanto and go towards more results orientated scientific approaches. Also, I've linked in, this is a kind of a story that's been reproduced all over the internet, so I'm just sticking it there as well, about the South African farmers, that they have suffered millions of dollars in lost income. Apparently 82,000 hectares of genetically modified corn, maize, probably 810 again, failed to produce hardly any seeds. Basically the plants looked healthy. They, by all intents and purposes from the outside, they seem to be okay. However, the reality is that, break open the corn and there was nothing there, nothing usable. So Monsanto really quickly have rushed to offer compensation. So obviously they're doing a little bit of damage limitation. They're blaming the failure of these 3 varieties of corn, which were planted in South Africa, on alleged under-fertilization processes in the laboratory. About 280 of the 1,000 farmers who planted the 3 varieties of Monsanto corn this year have reported extensive seedless corn problems. Now there's a bit of debate banging around about how badly the crops have failed, and Monsanto have been saying, it's not as bad as it looks. However, there's a lady called Marion Mayet. She's a director of the Africa Centre for Biodiversity in Johannesburg, and she's demanding urgent government investigation into this, and she wants an immediate ban on all GM foods. She's blaming their technology. Monsanto is claiming essentially that less than 25% of these corn varieties failed. However, Marion Mayet, she says that Monsanto are grossly underestimating that, and according to her own information and her own research, some farms have suffered up to 80% crop failures. The centre is strongly opposed to GM food and biologically manipulation technology in general. So obviously she has a bug to bear about Monsanto, as I do, but the somewhere between 25% and 80% there's been a crop failure. But I would imagine, and speculation here, I would guess that if Monsanto carry on, if they're acting true to form and true to type with their compensation, I would guess that each of those compensations will come with a clause and come with a sign on the dotted line not to speak about it. That's just what they do. I could be wrong, but anyway, so I did a little bit more digging around about what Monsanto have been doing, particularly in the, they're getting a lot of criticism about how efficient and how how yielding their product is, and attacking the product, that's a bit of a problem. That's what they've got, and seeds is where their business is now. It's not so much in the Roundup, in the pesticides, because the pesticides, it's not, seeds is where it's at. That's where they're growing their business. So I had a quick browse on the Monsanto press release section of their website, and I happened to notice that in the last month there seems to be a bit of a trend forming. Again, I'll link it all there. They added a guy called David Ciccione. They added David to the board of directors. Now, this guy, he's a doctor, and he's currently president of the South Dakota State University. They've also entered into a research collaboration to source novel genes for crop improvement with the Hunan, H-U-N-A-N, University in China, who are one of the oldest institutions of higher education in the world. They've committed 10 million to rice and wheat research program, which identifies and supports young scientists interested in improving research into rice and wheat. And that program is administered by Texas AgriLife Research, which is an agency of the Texas A&M University system. They've also committed 1 million to sponsor plant breeding fellowships at South Dakota State University, where agriculture is South Dakota's #1 industry. They're getting really cozy with universities, really cozy with educational boards and committees and all of that. That makes me very uncomfortable. On a slightly cheerier note, I've also put in an article in the sidebar, which I found really interesting. It's about the experience that a Canadian farmer called Percy Schmeiser and his wife Louise, they've spent the last 12 years in court against Monsanto. Very long, pissy little battle going on between them. Really, it illustrates how Monsanto and their legal department act, but it also threw up a really interesting ending to it in terms of corporate liability, and Monsanto being liable for contamination and cleanup costs when their seeds and their product take a hold on your land.